Hello everyone, this is Michael. I usually make really long form videos, often over an hour long, and I've had some people say to me, why don't you make shorter videos? So I said, well, why don't I make shorter videos? So that's what we're going to try today. This is probably an excerpt from one of my long form videos, usually just a single album review from one of my ranking the catalog videos that I've done for many bands. If you like it, I hope that you'll hit the like button, and if you enjoy the content that I provide on this channel, hit the subscribe button. And with that, let's check out the video. The obvious thing to do the next album was to do The Real Thing again, and they just had no interest in that whatsoever. Instead, the band really wanted to kind of challenge their audience, and I think Billy Gould said it on one of the videos I was watching. He was like, oh, you like The Real Thing? You like that? Well, try some of this. And they purposefully wanted to like I say, explore, be experimental, be extreme, and there's no doubt whatsoever that the album Angel Dust, which came out in 1992, is both experimental and extreme. Now, I've got this as an 82. I can tell you this is the one specifically that if I went back, I'd probably give it a number of the songs higher grades, to the point that this would probably be more like a 90. Again, I'm going to use some of the words I read to describe the music on Angel Dust. Art damaged death metal, nerve frazzling apocalyptic rock, bizarro masterpiece, genre shifting theatric, schizophrenic vocals, complex beats, and nerve rattling apocalyptic beats. One of the key things I think here is that Mike Patton, unlike on The Real Thing, is heavily involved with the ideas, and he's using his voice to its full extent here. This is the album that really cemented Faith No More's reputation as a true innovator and a true artist, really. And I think that's one thing, that these guys are artist. The easy thing, like I said, would have been to do The Real Thing again, and that's what the record company really wanted, but they didn't. They went a completely different direction, and I can remember when I put this out, the CD, when I put the CD on, got it the day that it came out, I was so excited. I was a bit bewildered, but I also thought, wow, man, I'm going to be listening to this a lot, because you cannot digest it in a single listen. Let's go into the songs individually. As you can see, I like virtually everyone at least an 80 and a few hundreds here. The one song I don't like is RV, and we'll get into each one of these individually. I think a number of these I would go back and rescore as hundreds instead of 80s. I'm going to check my notes here. So, I'm going to, because this is such a roller coaster ride of a listen from beginning to end. If you put Land of Sunshine on and Midnight Cowboy, this is a roller coaster, a sonic roller coaster that will take you on a wild ride. And I want to go over each song, and specifically how I've talked about this many, many times about bands. The bands that I like are bands that can go dark and light. They can play fast, they can play slow, they can play loud, they can play quiet, they can play urgent, they can play relaxed, they can play angry, they can play happy. They got all the best music is able to cover all those different areas and then transition between them, just like that transition we just heard there. They went from this chanting heavy stuff to now we've got almost ballad-like or lullaby-like xylophones going on, malpractice. We're going to get into these. We're going to do each one, all right? So the album opens with Land of Sunshine. And I'll say this, Land of Sunshine sounds pretty similar to The Real Thing. It's not that different. What you will note immediately, though, is Mike Patton's vocals are much more dynamic. In addition, the song starts kind of similar to From Out of Nowhere, the opener to The Real Thing, but when you get to the chorus, you're not getting a simple anthemic sing-along chorus. Instead, by the middle of the song, Patton is laughing like a true madman in the background, and he's got these layered vocal things going on, and you start wondering what the heck's going on, and that was a true sign of things to come, because every song, there's parts where when you're first hearing them, you're like, what am I listening to? And then the song ends with this really powerful start-stop kind of action. Great way to kick off the album. But Caffeine is when the band really kind of revealed it. And Caffeine, I would definitely make 100 after listening some more. Mike Patton is in peak form on Caffeine. He is all over the place. He's got quiet. First, the song is really, really heavy song. It starts off. And then in the middle, you have this very quiet spoken word bridge. And then it transitions into crazy screaming heavy metal, like almost like growl type vocals, but not really. And then it goes back. It goes back from the heavy screaming vocals to the quiet spoken word stuff, and then back. And so you've got this amazing palette of sounds happening. The arrangement is bizarre. If you had to track it, it's not verse, chorus, bridge, outro. Trust me. It's these ability to combine genres, transition between them seamlessly, have a sophisticated, complex arrangement, an enormous palette of sounds. I mean, we got different sounds, different energies, different atmospheres. They're painting different pictures. They're eliciting different emotions. This is Faith No More. This is Caffeine is, to me, is Faith No More saying this is what we're capable of, and they're playing at the top of their level. After that, we get Midlife Crisis. This is one of 3 relatively accessible and poppy songs on the album, and yet it opens with Mike Patton again just employing an enormous range of vocal sounds, vocal ranges, vocal what's the word I'm looking for? Phrasings. It can be overwhelming when you first hear it, because he'll have 2 or 3 vocals going on simultaneously, and they're often in conflict with each other almost. You can have clear, clean, happy vocals, and then in the background he'll have this snarling, lower volume snarl that's, rough and edgy. And I mean, this is the Mike Patton coming out party for me, this whole album. Then we get a bridge where it changes to a keyboard driven section, which slowly double times. That, and then that transitions into a super heavy sludge metal kind of sound. I mean, I feel like these guys have no limits on what they're willing to try, and then they're killing it when they do try it. That's what every song on here feels like, except for song number 4. I don't like it. I didn't like it when it first came out. I tried to like it when I went and started doing this effort again. I still don't. I don't like it's a country sounding, piano driven, almost ballad with these Mike Patton spoken vocals. I don't like the piano melody, and I don't like Mike's vocals on it. So I'm not going to say much more about that. Smaller and smaller. It's a mid-tempo, heavy, straightforward vocals. But then eventually Patton is screaming again. But his screaming is so well done. It's controlled. It's purposeful. It's effective. I do not like growling vocals, and screaming is fine. I don't like those growling vocals that a lot of the heavy metal, death metal, modern metal bands do. Patton uses it, but it's part of an entire palette of sounds. He's not just screaming. He's not just growling. The bridge in the middle transitions to this bass drum section, and then Patton is in the background doing Indian chants. Boom, 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 boom. And again, it just feels like nothing is off the table. I feel like there's no genre or type of music that the band's willing to employ, even if only for a section here or there. Um, I'm reading my notes. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I'm saying there's no transition that's too bold or audacious to attempt. That's what I feel like. They could go from any sounding genre to another genre, and they'd figure out a way to make it work, and they'd make the transition seamless. There's no frameworks that the band's following. The arrangements are all over the place and outrageous. Next, we got Everything's Ruined. This is a relatively accessible song again. Again, Mike Patton's vocals on full display, range, tone, aggression. Like I said earlier, I like bands that have the ability to do black and white. Patton's able to do black and white with his vocals all over. There's no part of the canvas he's unwilling to utilize. And name an emotion, he can cover it. He's got the huge range. He's often using his vocals as an instrument, where it could be kind of an instrumental section or bridge, and he'll be contributing some kind of beat or rhythm to it. Just amazing stuff. And then we get to Malpractice, which is absolutely off. We are off in true bizarro world. This song is almost getting into Mr. Bungle territory in terms of just how crazed it is. It's switching from one kind of song to another, over and over again. My wife, who is a big Mike Patton fan, but she refers to him as the Carney guy. This song is one of the reasons she refers to him as the Carney guy. That it sounds like if you were on LSD and went to one of those outdoor carnivals with the freaks and the crazy shows and all the zaniness that you see at one of those things, this song would sound like that. That's the song that we mentioned a little while ago. It starts out heavy and doing this crazy stuff and then transitions into a child's lullaby. I mean, that's just one of the many unexpected areas the band travels through on that song. It makes me think I wrote this down when I was like, anybody who knows Hunter S. Thompson's writing, it's considered gonzo and it was drug fueled and insane. Malpractice sounds like a Hunter S. Thompson song to me. Quintessential Faith No More, absolutely unique. Nobody's ever done anything like it first. Then we get Kindergarten. I'm not as big a fan of Kindergarten. It's kind of mid-tempo, and there's nothing about it that really stands out to me. It is a good song because it's got that groove that I was talking about, that bass and drum rhythm section, still giving us something to swing to, making us move, making us tap our feet and shake our booty. And it just seems like no matter what kind of song Faith No More is playing, they've always got that groove. What this song we're listening to now, Evidence, that's got a groove, man. Then we've got Be Aggressive. Oh my God, there's so many things to this. So it starts out with keyboards, but the lyrics are about rather rough and aggressive homosexual oral sex. Typical song content. And here's the reality is, I used to think in the 90s, I thought Mike Patton was gay because there are a number of songs that talk about being gay or things like this. I don't think somebody who wasn't gay would talk about rough oral sex between two men. The reality is, it's keyboardist Roddy Bottum is gay. And he wrote this song, and he liked to write lyrics that might make Mike Patton feel uncomfortable. He almost would purposely write extreme lyrics just to see how far he could make Mike go. Mike is a real artist, and so he took that challenge on and did what he does. And there was always a bit of tension within the band like that. I once heard Jim Martin, the guitarist, described as the kind of person who, if you had a scab on your arm, he's the kind of guy that would try to pick it off and then stick his finger in it. And the reality is that Jim Martin wasn't, he's a heavy metal guy. He wasn't a huge fan of the direction the band went in with Angel Dust, and he frequently called it gay disco. And in the documentaries or videos that I watched, he was never with the other band members when he was talking about the album. And he's like, well, if they call it Angel Dust, it won't have anything, my fingerprints on it, because that's a dumb name. And he wasn't really too super psyched about the direction. But we'll get to what happens there. So let's just keep going with the songs. Be Aggressive also has a famous cheerleader chant as the chorus: Be aggressive, be aggressive, BEAGGRESSIVE. Again, this is a song about rough oral homosexual sex. I remember going to pick up my daughter from school after school. She's in like 3rd grade or something, and all the kids are singing "Be aggressive, be aggressive, be," and apparently it's become a fairly popular cheerleader chant. So now, this is Faith No More's influence. 30 plus years after they released this album, we now have school-age children chanting their lyrics to a song about rough homosexual oral sex. That's true art history right there. Then we get Small Victory, which is another fairly accessible pop song. It's got a straightforward arrangement. This is a good example. During the bridge, Mike Patton is using his vocals as an instrument. Crack Hitler, one of my favorite songs. Got these distorted vocals, heavy effects. It's got a high energy groove, and then it changes to a slow tempo with these chants. Really interesting arrangement. And then Patton is using his multi-layered vocals as the song ends and climaxes. And that's one of the things I forgot to mention, is that not only did Patton expand what he was doing vocally in terms of how he was singing, but expanded it kind of from a production standpoint. They would often have multiple layers of his vocals with him doing these different things, and then he would use his vocals as an instrument. And the production, I forgot to mention, the production on this is outstanding. You have a ton of samples being used, lots of overdubs, blending of all these different sounds and genres. It's just a wonderful sounding album. Next we got Jizzlobber. This is a good example of a heavy song but driven by keyboards. It's got almost industrial sounding effects with real heavy vocals and brutal guitar sounds. And then it's followed by a very proggy, heavy instrumental section. Sounds, kind of sounds you hear in a band like Dream Theater or Haken or in some of the modern prog metal bands. And then it ends with a gothic church organ. I mean, who could do that? And then finally, we get Midnight Cowboy, which is a cover of the song from the 1968, I think, album, starring, I think, John Voight and Dustin Hoffman. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on who's in that movie. It starts off like it's from The Godfather. It's got that kind of sound to it. This is a very authentic and respectful version of the song. This isn't the band doing it ironically or I always say this: if you're going to do a cover, it needs to be different or better. And I don't think this is actually either one of those. And yet it's not different at all. It sounds very similar to the original version. And yet I think it's a perfect ending to this album. Remember I said that we went on a roller coaster ride listening to this album, and we've been up and down and maybe turned upside down and spinning around. But every roller coaster comes to the part where after you've done all that, you got the straight, no incline section that's kind of slow as you pull into the station. Midnight Cowboy is that. It's that slow, straight section after you've gone through all the zaniness that preceded it. It's a perfect closing to an album. And it's one reason I would give this album a higher rating, is because the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. My ratings are basically an aggregation of all the ratings that I give the individual songs, but sometimes an album just works when you listen to it from beginning to end, and it works better. Angel Dust is that album. This is a masterpiece. It is extremely influential, totally unique, absolutely innovative, experimental, extreme, all those things. Just cannot say enough good things about angel dust. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button or subscribe so that I can continue to provide quality content on this channel. Again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.